security is number one priority.
Oh, right.
You talking to yourself?
Good evening, and welcome to the meeting. Jan's not here, so I'm afraid you've got me. Minus my chain, sorry. So first of all, are there any apologies for absence, please? Oh, I forgot that bit. First of all, we're going to have a 1 minute silence to honour the late Queen Elizabeth II. Thank you. First on the agenda, apologies for absence.
Chair, apologies from Councillors John Gould, John McGrath and Bob Brown, although Bob may make an appearance later on, so I'm sure that can call on.
Item 2, any declarations of interest?
Chair, Broxton Borough Council, Mayor of the Borough, and that's it. Oh, and Director of Liberty Leisure.
Tim?
Declaring interest in item 8, which is the planning matter, because I'm a regular substitute on planning committee of the borough.
Broxton Borough, Liberty Leisure, and I am a member of the planning committee at Borough, so item 8 as well.
Councillor McRae?
Yeah, non-pecuniary interest in item 8. I'm a substitute on planning, even though I've never been called to it, which is quite good.
Thank you. Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. The minutes are here. Has anyone got anything that they want to raise about what's in the minutes? The accuracy of the minutes. Right.
Can I propose that there are accurate records?
Thank you. Anyone second that? Thank you, Councillor Frost. All those in favour? And against? Abstain?
I'll abstain because I was on mayoral duties at Broxton.
Item 4, Mayor's announcements. They're in the pack.
Sorry, Mr Deputy Mayor, before we move on to that, I was just wondering why there weren't any committee minutes?
They haven't been produced, so they have, sorry, committee minutes on the agenda you mean for?
Yeah.
We haven't had any produced ready to come to this evening's meeting.
Okay.
Item 4, Mayor's announcements. We've got them in. We've got the dates in the pack, and I'm sure Jan will have something to say on her return. Item 5, public participation. Yes.
So I had something to say on the Mayor's engagements.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've raised this point before actually, that I think it would be good if we brought forward if the list of engagements picks up where the previous left off. The last entry on the previous one was the 24th of July, and this starts on the 1st of August. So inevitably there are always going to be, the way it works, or the way it has worked, there are inevitably going to be some that are missed off during that week that lapses. On this occasion I'm aware of at least one, which was Digging Summer event on the 30th of July. Nor is that event on the website, incidentally, if that could be rectified. Another point that I've raised before is that there were two sites on this occasion for the Green Festival, and it said the mayor attended, but unfortunately she only attended on the one site and didn't go to Diggin.
Yes.
I've also got a thing to say about the mayor events. Basically, I requested the mayor to turn up at the mill tonight to help sign out, to cut the ribbon. Subsequently, I had an email saying that was going to happen. Only to get another email saying it's been double booked now. How can that happen?
So I haven't sent an email about that today.
Well,
so I don't know.
I had it today. I got it the other day saying that the mayor's young will not be attending, basically because it's been double booked.
I'm not aware of any other bookings for this evening. So it's,
That's-
I'll have to
that's-
take away and look at it because I don't know the answers for you tonight. I'm
Well,
sorry.
it's just it's a slap in the face, and we look really silly as a council. You know, we say we're going to do something, and it's all been arranged down at the mill for the 100th centenary, and for us to go back and say, "Oh, she's not coming."
I can give some clarity on that. The mayor, for personal reasons, because I spoke wasn't able to attend the celebrations at the mill. But in that situation, it would be normal practice for yourself as deputy mayor to turn up, and that probably would have been protocol to arrange.
I didn't know anything about it. Councillor Grindle?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because obviously I think that when a mayor's diary, so I think that when the mayor actually has engagements come in, correct me if I'm wrong, but if everyone knew about it, it's a possibility that the ward especially the ward councillors, if it was in a certain ward, it doesn't matter, hopefully they will turn up. And if I may, give an instance, what we do with the position I'm in at the moment is everyone gets to know about the engagements, and like yesterday, and the local councillor turned up, which is in the ward, which is, I think it would encourage councillors to see what the mayor's doing, and it would encourage more councillors to get involved if they've got the time to do it. Chair.
Thank you. Yes.
Just since it's sort of opportune on the on this mayor's engagements, there was the placing of floral tributes for Her Majesty that the mayor presided over. I understand that obviously the arrangements are very complicated, and that this had to be done at short notice. I know that there was a request from the palace, from the king, that plastic was not to be used, biodegradables, preferably take them out of their wrapping. That is not something that we did as a town council, and to the best of my knowledge, certainly the case as of yesterday, the flowers are still there. And so as a matter of relative urgency, I think that needs tidying up, and I think in the future it is part of the protocol for in the case of any dignitary's death, for first and foremost the family's wishes to be respected, and in this instance we didn't, and that was a bit of a bad call.
The tributes that were put there by the council weren't wrapped in plastic. The ones that were wrapped in plastic, which I saw yesterday or today, were put there by members of the public later.
Right, okay, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Wasn't it put out on social media, not plastic, on the flowers? And so a notice did go out to the general public of asking not for plastic to be used and single flowers or open flowers, and I saw that on social media, to be fair.
Councillor Helen Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Although they weren't wrapped in plastic, they were on plastic trays with floral foam. I did a bit of research the other day into floral foam, and it's horrendous. It really is horrendous.
Thank you.
Just to update councillors, the borough did say that they were going to collect all of the floor tribute, so I'll ask them why they've left some for you.
Yeah, it's unfortunate they have been left, because on the day after the funeral, all flowers should have been removed. But that was a procedure.
Clark has said what's happened, so until she's been in contact with the council, we don't know. Thank you. Councillor Frost.
Would it be relevant to actually move on, because I think we've covered everything on the mayor's and also the things that need to be taken care of and things that haven't been taken care of. So just to speed things up and relevant to actually go forward.
Item 5, the public participation session. Is there anybody here who would like to raise something?
No one's registered to speak, Chair, and I would ask if they haven't been taken.
Thank you. Item 6, reports from borough and county councillors. Our county councillor has given his apologies. Are there any reports from borough councillors? Okay, thank you. Item 7, finance matters. We have 3 things to note and 1 thing to approve. First of all, does anyone have anything to raise on the summary of receipts and payments? Thank you. Anyone who's got anything to raise about the payments to August the 31st? Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Helen Davis?
If I'm looking at the right one, there's 2 pages of that, are there not?
There's a double page for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Under mayoral allowance, I'm not quite sure why it comes under mayoral allowance, because the mayoral allowance has already been paid. It's just above that. Nevertheless, photography, BP photography, that's Brian Pickering in Hucknall, isn't it? I'm just wondering why we couldn't use a local photographer.
Which number was that one, please?
188.
188, thank you.
So the mayor's, it's under the mayor's allowance because we have a separate, so there's a mayor's allowance which is the personal £400 allowance, but then we have a budget of £300 which pays for tickets or other bits and bobs. So the photography comes out of that, so that's why it needs to be all called the mayor's allowance for legal reasons.
Yep.
So
Okay,
that's
fair
why
enough.
it's like that. And the photographer was the mayor's choice, as it has been in previous years.
That's a great pity. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to propose that we accept the approval of payments for 31st of August 2022? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you, Councillor Hall. And all those in favour of accepting these? Any against? And abstentions? And then 2 more to note, the earmark reserve balances, and balances at the bank. Has anyone got anything to raise about either of those? Thank you. It's just noting, isn't it? Thank you. Item 8, the planning application. I'd like to hand over to the Chair of Planning for this, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you are aware, we do have a planning committee that normally deals with planning applications, but because of the size and scale of this particular one, I thought it would be useful to get the full council input into this. Particularly as I know that with regards to Fields Farm, there has been some discussion about tree felling for cycle routes, and phase 3 is actually surrounding a tree preservation order area where there are some trees to be felled. So I do think it's worthwhile as a council if you want to put anything forward so we can put a representation forward on this application, we can do. I will say that I am not particularly, I was never in favour of this phase 3 part, but it has got there was a provisional planning application gone through that has been approved. What's come through is a reserved matters application, so it's further reports that need to go forward before any more work can be done on this. So there are, I presume everybody's had a look at the planning application, or
151
on
documents.
151 documents, which has been wonderful to look through. So I mean, I would, I'm happy to put forward that what I think, but obviously, I think it's worth, if anybody's got any viewpoints on that they should raise them, and then we can take it from there. And I can tell you what my thoughts are, but because I actually think that the woodland survey is actually very fair on what has been put forward, even though I don't agree with it, but I think they've actually done a reasonable job on the woodland survey report, but obviously there is going to be a cycle route cleared through that woodland, so I think if it'd be good to actually make some comment on that.
I think Councillor Frost was first.
Yeah, I'm not in favour of felling trees when they've got preservation order around them. It's a case like when they're gone, they're gone. You can't suddenly regrow them from nothing. It takes time. And to have something like this ignored or wanting to push through sets a bad precedent for the future. We need to protect our forest and wooded areas. We cannot just get rid of them. And this needs to be put through and made aware. I certainly aren't happy. I can't speak for the council, but myself, I'm not happy at all. It should be left alone. They are preserved for a reason. So that's my view.
Councillor McRae?
Yeah, I mean, I've never supported building on Field Farm, but they've got permission now. That's the fight that we all lost. I agree with what Councillor Frost said. Originally, they wanted to put a road through the middle. They've come back with a smaller cycle path. It's better than a big road because we're going to lose less trees, but it's still something going through. Again, like I said, I'm not happy that they're building on there, but there's no good shouting about that because that's been decided, hasn't it? I'm glad that they've actually listened and they withdrew the bit for the shops they wanted to put on there, because I do think we need to be supporting the high street and the shops that's in the area. We lost the Jaguar pub for a co-op, and they said that was justification. There's enough shops in the area, so we don't need them on there. So I'm glad they've listened, and I'm also glad that they've listened about moving the element of social housing or affordable housing, or whatever they call it. They've spread it around the site a little bit more. And I've spoke to the leader of Broxton Borough Council to see if there's a possibility that Broxton Borough Council could buy them like they have done on phase 2. I hope that's something that can happen, but obviously that's not my decision. That has to go to full council or the relevant departments at Broxton. But we do need council houses, don't we? It's not just what is affordable. What's affordable to you might not be affordable to me, and I suppose all 18 of us, or however many sat around this table, affordable is different to all of us, isn't it? But I do think they have listened, because it's different developers, they have listened a little bit. I just wish they weren't building on there at all, but it is what it is, and I think if we've got to try and get what we can that benefits the community, and like I said, they have listened a little bit, so you've got to give them credit for listening, haven't you?
Overlapping slightly with what Councillor McRae just said, when previously this non-reserve matters, the prior application to this was going through, many of us expressed concern at the felling of trees, and we did via the borough request that the developers made every effort to replace mature trees that are felled with other mature trees, and not just plant saplings in their place. They've been quite compliant with that. So far I have a reasonable amount of confidence that the developer is, like Richard says, taking on board and working with us. So not may continue.
Just to add to what Tim said, isn't there a policy of 3 to 1? For every one tree they're going to plant 3.
I can't remember that, but if that's good, if it,
I'm sure I've heard something along them lines, just to follow on from what you were saying. Make another, just one more point. In the report written by the people doing the Peveril, I think it's developers, they have actually said that they've done another woodland survey because the previous one obviously was done a few years ago, and they wanted to go. And like I said, it is a good report. I do think they actually did do a proper job on this one. What the other reserve matters were though was there's also a reptile survey and a bat survey. And I recall on the original document they were carried out in January, at a particularly cold time, and you're not likely to see reptiles and things like that active, especially during the day for bats. So even though, one has been put forward, I think, that's for the same reasons that they said that they needed a more up-to-date tree report. I think they should do another up-to-date wildlife survey. One that isn't carried out in the middle of winter.
Although we're heading to the stage where that's going to be hard to avoid.
Yeah, but yeah.
Any other points? Thank you. Do we have to vote on anything for this?
It's wants me to make a proposal.
Can I then propose that the points that have been raised are submitted as a representation by Stapleford Town Council to this planning application?
Anyone second that? Councillor John. Hawkins, I'm so sorry, my brain has just gone too much.
That's okay.
You must be sitting here that does that. Thank you. So all those in favour that these points be raised? Any against? Any abstentions? 4 abstentions. Thank you very much. Item 9, Warm Spaces Scheme. I'd like to hand over to the clerk to lead on that one, please.
Thanks, Chair. So I have a member of our team has drafted the report that you see this evening, and this was done as a result of people coming into the Carmody Gate and asking, first of all, what was going on in the rest of the town, and if we would be offering this sort of space. And some councils have raised it as well as an idea. So we've had a look at some options with it. It's really a quick and dirty thing just to see if the council is interested in trying to pursue this. And obviously if you are, then we'll have to look into things in a bit more detail. But it's up to council to decide if they are interested in the matter.
And at the end of this, there are 3 recommendations that we vote on. The council instruct the clerk to approach other local organisations or groups with buildings to find out what they are doing and if coordination can be achieved. Second one, the council adopt the scheme and designate the Carnegie building a warm space with operational hours to be delegated to the town clerk in consultation with the leader of the council. And the third one that we're looking towards is that council approve the provision of warm refreshments to people making use of warm space for a nominal charge of donation of 50 pence per cup. Thank you. I think Councillor McRae was first.
Yeah, I mean, anything that helps people has got to be a good thing. I have got some concerns because I would like to see this supported, and if it's not the council that can support it, someone else. There's lots of groups and organisations in Stapleford. It does say on here, contact groups and organisations and see what they think. We've got the Helpful Bureau as an example because they're already in here. What my concern is, there's something somewhere, without looking through it all, so I can't remember where it is, but I did read it, having volunteers, including councillors and that. A lot of these people that will possibly come in, they're going to be vulnerable, and councillors, and I'm sure we'd all pass with flying colours, but as we speak, we are not DBS checked for anything like that. And my concern is if it's youngsters coming in as well, again, we're not DBS checked for that. So that's what my concern is, because if you're all looking after vulnerable people, I do know, and again I'm using them as an example because they're in the building, the Helpful Bureau are all DBS checked, but like I said, it does say on here, doesn't it, contact other groups and organisations to see if they want to do things like that. And I think it's important we do that. I wouldn't want any single councillors to be in here and something happens and you could get accused of something, blamed for something. And like I said, I'm sure if we all got DBS check, they'd all be fine, but we're not for this specific thing. And even if you've got a DBS check for somewhere else, it's not relevant for this, for here. You don't, a DBS check, unfortunately, it's not like a driving licence where you can use it everywhere, and perhaps that's something they should bring in, but they haven't, and it isn't. So that is a concern, because I just wouldn't like to see anybody put in a position where they could end up getting into trouble. If there's another way around it or another way we support it, I think it's something we should do, because we need to help people, don't we?
I agree entirely with that. I've written down DBS checks on here as well. It'll have to be done. One of the things in the report is the recommendation that there would always be 2 volunteers here, which would help against accusations being made against the volunteers, but DBS checks are needed. There is a way of making your DBS portable. If it's a volunteer DBS, you can set up an account for free when your DBS first comes through, and then you can give access to other organisations without them having to carry out a further DBS check. But if you haven't done that and your DBS check is already more than a few weeks old, you can't do that in retrospect, sadly. Councillor Frost, I think, was next.
Yeah, I think this is something we've got to look at seriously. I agree with what you've said about the DBS check, and also with what Councillor Gray said as well. But I've spoken to a number of other councils, 7 in total, and they're all doing exactly the same thing what we're doing here. It's having ourselves offering something, and also talking to other communities and other community groups, etc., that can offer something as well. We can have a chain of warm spaces that you can go to, and it's the old adage, if you've got a chain, it will last longer than just one place. This year is going to be particularly difficult, especially for the old people. I've spoken to a lot over the last week. I've been stopped in the street 3 or 4 times, and they're all worried about this, as I think we all are. And it's something that we've got to look down and see the best, or do the best we can. But I agree, we've got to look at DBS checks as well. Thank you.
Councillor Brindell.
Yes, thank you. I've got no problem about, it's a good idea. I have no problem about spending money on it. What does worry me, some of the things that come up already, but here is the first problem. The main problem is that if we had it here, which I'm not sure this is the right place for it, that needs to be looked into very carefully through security and everything else. The people that live around this area will probably come. The people that live up the north of the of Stapleford Town Council, of Stapleford, are going to find it more difficult to come down. Now, obviously, people that live up in the north part of the of Stapleford, if they did come down by bus, it's only once an hour if it comes on time. So if we're going to do something like this, then maybe we ought to look at not just one area, but 1 or 2 areas in Stapleford itself. One may be in this area here, and one near the North and Higgins Lane area. Because I think it's important that we don't forget the people that live up in other areas in Stapleford, because there's a lot of people who are very old who would like to probably come, probably can't even get here. So, besides all the things that are on here, then if people want to come, we're going to have to pay some money and lay some sort of transport facility share, because we put a lot of things are put on, and the majority of people can't get it. So you need to look at that before you go any further. But I will vote for something like this to happen. And yes, let's spend some money that is necessary for it, however much it costs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, firstly I want to say it's an absolute shame that we've actually got to look at something like this due to the cost of living. I do support this. I'm not going to repeat what everybody else has said. I think we do need a coordinated approach with maybe the churches, the library and other places in the area to see what they are doing. Again, the DBS check stuff is something we need to look at and coordinate with other groups. But yeah, I think it's something we've got to do, and I have seen several other councils doing the same sort of thing in different areas.
Thank you. Councillor McRae.
I'm
Sorry, I'm really sorry. I was just writing your name down. Councillor Hannah.
Oh, sorry, it's okay.
It was before you, but I was writing your name down instead.
You didn't have to hand up.
Fully in favour of this. Last I heard, and I haven't checked the minutes, but last I heard, paragraph 1.6 says about lack of clarity about what Nottinghamshire Council planning to do. I've heard that the answer is no. Yeah. So I need to confirm that. So that's just me speculating. But if that's the case, then that's very, very disappointing, because libraries would be a very logical option for this. In terms of something that I would like to see added to this proposal, as an extension onto recommendation C, is that we also allow the use of the urn and the microwave for people that might not want to make a 50p donation per hot drink, to actually bring some of their own food or drinks to be heated. I think that's quite an important provision. So rather than asking people to go to a potentially freezing building just to make use of the kitchen, to give them full use of our ability to heat food and drinks here.
Councillor Frost.
It's Councillor McRae first, I mean.
Oh. Really not doing well here. I'm really sorry, Councillor McRae.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, no, as I say, there is lots of places, isn't there? Like you've got the Haven, which cover the. Obviously, this is if they say yes or no, they might not be able to, but we need to ask them. The Haven are in the South East Ward. You've got different places, including here, and it is a shame about the library. I read that as well. And then the North Ward, you've got Church of Montrose Court. You've got Pasture Road Church. And you've also got the place, is it St Luke's on Morbridge Lane? You know, they just happen to have all the big buildings, don't they, you know? So, but again, that's what Part A is, isn't it? It's asking all these different people what they're doing, and I'm sure, well, I'd like to think that some of them might say yes, if they're in a position to be able to do that.
Councillor Frost.
Yeah, unfortunately, Tim's suggestion is a very good one, but we fulfil of health and safety. Because if somebody burns themselves while using a cooker, or somehow boils over a kettle and boils a hand, are we liable? That's the only downside of that. But there should be other community groups that are around that will be able to offer them services to do that. And if we have a list, or even be able to provide transport, as you say, so at the moment this is all pie in the sky ideas, because this is where we are at the moment, but it's something we need to look at seriously.
Thank you. Councillor Needham.
Okay, yeah, I'm in favour of doing this. I've been thinking about how this is going to work at great length, and I do take on board what Councillor Foster said about health and safety and are we liable for things. One of my concerns is that obviously people are here, and like it's been raised, are vulnerable, transport and access. So I do think it is worth working with the Health Bureau about arranging transport for people to get home, not just get here. Because I am concerned about vulnerable people getting home to a cold house, especially if the weather turns. In that same vein, I think it would also be useful, like you said about the tea urn, if we did like a hot water bottle filling service, so that if people do want to come and we could actually give them heat to take away. And thermos flasks, just take your hot water home with you if you want to. And another thing that is in my head though is obviously what are we going to do with a lot of people if they're sitting here? So I think it would be good, again, maybe to work with the Helpful Bureau to get some books out, maybe some jigsaw puzzles, games, and actually make it into a thing for people to do while they're here, rather than just sort of sitting around quiet. So yes, I think it is, the key point is that part A of working with others to achieve coordination of what we are providing.
Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, I might have dreamt this, but I'm sure I read somewhere about funding for these little schemes. I will see if I can dig it out. I'm sure I've read it somewhere.
Through the chair, there are schemes that county councils have set up in other parts of the country where they are providing grants to community groups and parishes to bid to pay for little schemes like this. I'm not aware of anything in the county, but I think what they've said is that, well, our libraries are open anyway, people can go in and sit and do what they need to do anyway, without them having to call it a warm spaces scheme, as far as I'm aware. So I'll do that.
Another thing to be useful is offering people charging facilities rather than to give them charge things up while they're here, which is one of the things that makes it into a warm bank rather than warm space. I've read in the report. So we mentioned, I think as Richard mentioned, the Haven, they have a huge problem in that they don't have any heating, so they can't be a warm space. They rent the building from the county council, and the county council at the moment aren't planning on replacing the boiler. So that rules them out. I do know that there are a number of the churches are actively looking at some of their buildings are so used anyway that they could set up something separate. Others are actively looking into it and deciding which days. So hopefully all the groups will be able to coordinate together. Yes, sorry.
That's all right.
I was just trying to think if there's anything else.
No, you're right. I was just thinking about what you said about people charging things up in here. I'm sure everything has to be pack tested that you plug into your wall in here.
Well, the appliances do. I don't think chargers...
Laptops will, definitely, because I have to pack tested for Wales. Anything coming into a new building has to be pack tested. Even if it's brand new.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of school. I think my school laptop has to be tested as a portable appliance for school, yes.
It's just a thought.
Councillor Brindell.
I tell you what's concerning me here, Chair. Everything that everyone has said, I can quite understand. Now, obviously, this programme has to be put together very quickly. For the simple reason is it's going to get colder, and people do need to find somewhere to come. And if we don't get on with this, and if we wait for 3 months before we make a decision, then we're kicking the ball on the wrong goal. So
that's why we've got the proposals here, which would start things into process immediately.
Absolutely, it is necessary to get everything up on board and running, because if we don't, it's not going to look good for us neither as a council, is it?
I think one of the things in the report is that we can set something up now, and then at a later stage look at it again. If other groups have come on board, look at it again and maybe vary what we offer here. Councillor Frost.
One of the things I was just thinking about while everybody was talking was setting a warm jumper bank or a warm coat bank where people can bring in old, decent jumpers, etc., and we can have them here. So if somebody needs to have a jumper and they haven't got one, and there's one here, they can add themselves to it. It doesn't need to be back tested. It is what it is, and it's an extra bit of warmth. It says he wearing a fine jumper.
Yeah, that would fit right in with what the Helpful Bureau are doing with the uniform bank and things. That's a brilliant idea. We could suggest to the Helpful Bureau and work with them on that.
Yeah.
Just in the interest of moving things on, I think we ought to
Yes.
Yeah.
one of the ideas. I think we're all mainly in favour
I think
of
so,
doing
yes.
it, and we just
recommendations that the council, these aren't separate ones, are they? But
No.
they follow on. The first one is the council instruct the clerk to approach other local organisations and groups with buildings to find out what they're doing and if coordination can be achieved. I've sort of scribbled beside that and looking to grant funding. Yeah.
I just wanted to say what we could do is start with something basic. I know we've been on about PAT testing things and a DBS check. We could start really basically, and as some more information comes in of what you are allowed to do and regulations and things, then we could expand it.
Oh, yeah.
I think we need to start really basic,
But I think
just a warm space.
that the council instruct the clerk to approach other local organisations or groups with buildings to find out what they're doing and if coordination can be achieved, and to look into grant funding for it.
Yeah.
And Councillor Needham's proposed that. If I second that, Councillor Bradley. All those in favour? I think that's unanimous. Thank you. Second proposal, that the council adopt the scheme and designate the Carnegie Building a warm space with operational hours to be delegated to the town clerk in consultation with the leader of the council. Are you proposing that?
No, I was going to say I'd like to see the end bit say in consultation with all councillors. It's a couple of emails because we're all going to have different ideas and that, aren't we? And I think we all need to get involved in this because we all support it. It's an email, isn't it? If you're sending one, you can send loads, and if people want to respond, they can. If they don't, let's all do this together and make it really good.
Yeah.
Chair, can I ask for an addition of a few words to
Yes.
this proposal? After designate the Carnegie Building a warm space, as per your suggestion, Mr Deputy Mayor, or warm bank if possible.
Anyone else want to make additions, alterations to the proposal? So I'll read that out again as I've got it. That the council adopt the scheme and designate the Carnegie Building a warm space or warm bank if possible, with operational hours to be delegated to the town clerk in consultation with councillors.
Yes.
Who else propose that?
I'll propose that.
Councillor McRae, seconder, Councillor Frost. It's hard, isn't it, this bit? All those in favour? Again, unanimous. Thank you. Third one, that the council approve the provision of warm refreshments to people making use of the warm space for a nominal charge of donation of 50p per cup. We've got there, I've written down a query about the use of the urn and microwave, which has come under. There was something else, Councillor Frost was thinking about that. Councillor McRae.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we, instead of saying we're charging you 50p a cup, some people don't have a lot of money, can we say for a donation? Because some people might put a couple of quid in where someone might put 10 pence in, someone might put nothing. I've always found when it's open to donations, you actually raise more money in it and then it helps.
So,
If that's okay with everybody, I'm happy to propose that.
Would you like to say, use of the warm space, drinks for a donation?
Yeah.
Which we don't specify.
No, yeah. And I'm happy to propose that if that's
Councillor
I'll
Liddell?
second that.
Okay, so Councillor McRae, Councillor Liddell. So I'll read that out. The council approved the provision of warm refreshments to people making use of the warm space for a donation.
Yeah. A voluntary donation. Sounds better, doesn't it?
That's what donations are, aren't they?
Yeah.
For a voluntary donation. All those in favour? Again, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And it's something that, well, you know, if there's something else comes up, we can be consulted on that as well and we extend it or change it. Next, item 10, the annual report. After the last meeting, a number of things were said about it. It's gone back, it's been rewritten, it's presented here. Is there anyone got anything they would like to say about it? Councillor Hal-Davis.
Sorry, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'm ruffling through papers. I've got plenty of things to say about it in red pen. Overall, I would say it hangs together as a report, though. That was my main concern last time. Well, it was the general concern last time. This is a report, and it's factual. My comments are mainly that there are little things, typos and whatnot, and there's some more major ones, not huge, which I've put red stars by. There's one. Council in the community, what we did, these groups receive funding.
Page 9, if that helps anyone.
I've got 27 on the bottom.
No, it's page 9 on there.
Oh.
It's got 2 different pages on it, hasn't it?
The £250 firefighters charity, Stapleford Fire Station Christmas Fund Day. Can we take out the deputy town mayor? Also topped it up with a further £50 from her allowance. That seems rather poor. That's a personal choice. It's not something that was decided by council, and this is a council report. I think we all do things voluntarily to do with, donating to charity and such like. And I don't think I would expect mine to be put into a council report. It doesn't sit well with what I was saying about this is a report now, and that's a personal preference which is cited in it, and it doesn't. Trying to find some other ones for you. The word sprawled in the case study about, what's it about? About the Green Festival, I think. Took place across 4 locations. Sprawled is a strange word, and it doesn't have positive.
Top of page 30 or page 12.
Thank you.
Doesn't have positive connotations, so, and it just seems out of place. Took place across.
Thank you.
Instead of sprawl. I'll try and find some more if you would like to come back to me, Mr. Deputy. Can't find them.
Councillor Frost.
Okay.
Yeah, the £50 donation. Jan made it quite clear that she wanted to give it in a council meeting. I remember her saying quite well that she wanted to give the £50, which obviously was £300. And it was a case of like, we all agreed that was a good idea, all of us. So I think it needs to stop in there. That's it.
Councillor Needham.
Okay, I agree with Councillor Helen Davis that this is a much nicer format with the report writing. I found some of the terminology a little bit odd, but nothing major. Page 32 or page 14, the staffing review. I get that this is a very honest picture of what happened, but I do think it's also kind of talking about people's personal circumstances, as when we talk about maternity leave and the adoption leave and things. I think you could take some of that detail out and maybe word it something like, due to staff turnover, these posts did not remain filled, and the projects were scaled back. Some of the projects were scaled back accordingly. I think there's a lot of detail in there that, okay, I'm happy if people want that level of honesty, but I think it's probably a little bit personal to some of the people involved potentially. And page, I think it was, next one was on page, what was it? I've got my notes, sorry. So page 36, where it's talking about council tax, there was actually a bit of an error in the maths. So where it talks about 43p per month, that isn't less than a penny a week. That should be less than 12 pence a week, I think. So there is an error in the maths there.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally I think it's vastly improved. So thank you to whoever did this, because I think it's I can see a lot of work going into it, and it was really much better.
Councillor Helen Davis, are you ready to come back to you yet, or?
Yes, thank you. I have I found one here. Councillors' attendance record, page 40 or 22. Councillors are required to attend meetings of the council. That in itself is correct, and its committees. Well, we're not required to attend committees, so that seems a bit odd. Breakdown of all attendance. I'm puzzling through this one still. breakdown of all attendances as a percentage of all meetings. Can somebody explain this to me, because it's doing my
I
head in.
think I asked about the same one. This is well, first of all, on the committees, if we've been voted onto a committee, then we are summoned to that committee, so it's not a requirement to attend, but no, councillors aren't. But this percentage is a percentage of the full council meetings and meetings of the committees that we're on. So it's not, for somebody that was on full council and one committee, it's not, all the other committees they're not on don't count against their percentage.
And do you think that needs a slight rewording then to express that better?
Yeah, I'll figure out something to.
Thank you. I think.
Comment on that.
Okay, Councillor Patterson.
I mean, I actually think this is a little bit unfair because there's some councillors that sit on lots of committees and some councillors that sit on hardly any, but the percentage is lower than those that don't sit on hardly any. You know, because you're on doing more stuff and you might represent apologies to one committee, it's not a fair representation, really, of what people are doing.
Councillor Craig.
Yeah, two things. Just on page 027, if that helps anyone, where it says New Stapleford Community Centre Platinum Jubilee event, can it just say Queen's Platinum Jubilee? Because as it is there, it just looks like it was a Platinum Jubilee for the Community Centre. It was for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, wasn't it? And then back to them figures, I think Councillor Pip Hallam Davis has got 90%. I think we should present her with a certificate of participation.
I'd like that, yeah.
Chair, can we move on, please? Point of order.
Councillor Howard. Councillor Tim Howard.
Thank you. I'm not entirely comfortable with the wording at the bottom of page 20 or 38. This meant that the reserves position remained relatively unchanged and could be put towards keeping the increase of the next precept at a low level. This presumes that there will be an increase at all. That is a bit presumptuous as we're not on the budget yet. So perhaps that wording could be changed to something that expresses the sentiment of the less money we spend, the less money we have to charge in council tax.
Sorry, through the chair, this relates to previous financial year, which led into the budget that's already been set. So this is in relation to, so that comment is in relation to this budget, which we did use our reserves to keep the.
In that case, you shouldn't be using the term could be. It could express has been.
Well, no, because this is okay. This is an existential thing. So this is sort of what we would have done at the end of that year before we come into this year.
Okay, I can see the existential crisis here because it's either speculative because it's written at a point at a snapshot in time,
Yeah.
in which case it's presumptuous, or it's not, and it's written with full hindsight, in which case the wording shouldn't be written as if it's going to happen. I just think it's a bit clunky, but I'll move on. I've made my point. Actually, on the figures, I agree with what Councillor Patterson said. I think that it would be interesting to potentially, maybe on this page, maybe somewhere else in the document, where we have at least 3 lists of the councillors on page 39, page 40, page 41, detailing different things. But nowhere in the document does it say what committees people sit on. It may be a worthy addition, it could give some context. Also, I actually disagree with the attendance rate, and I thank the town clerk for responding to my request for my own personal attendance record on this, because I wasn't sure how the figures were calculated either. I think that caused a lot of us to head scratch. the attendance was actually from annual council meeting to annual council meeting inclusive. And for the municipal year, I think one of those shouldn't apply. I would suggest that the new municipal year for this council starts at the meeting at the mayor meeting, which means that your attendance at the mayor making at the end of the municipal year or the start of the next shouldn't count. This affects only two of us here, myself being one of them, because I was in Germany on borough duties at the time, and I sent apologies, but that's classed as my attendance in this municipal year, whereas actually that was the next one, because for that meeting, Councillor Gould was the mayor, not Councillor Frost, and this is for Councillor Frost's term as mayor, this report. So it also affects Councillor Atherton, and she really needs that increase in the percentage. So
it will actually affect all of us because none of us have a 100% attendance rate. So changing number of things will affect all of us slightly.
Through the chair, because I haven't actually calculated these, so if the council is happy for you to go and just review this and make sure that it is accurate, and do that. Thank you.
Councillor Hawking, I was listed on this one, or
Yeah.
okay.
Could we have some way of meetings that should have been attended, a percentage? How many meetings it should have been and how many were attended?
So the percentage rate, number of meetings,
Expected to attend and how many actually attended?
That's fine. We did that.
Sorry, I don't know.
Councillor Hawking.
I forgot what I was going to say.
You should do what I do and write it down.
It's all right, you know. I was like, yeah, I've got to say.
That,
I'll do that. I'll do last one. I'm trying to remember something.
so what? Oh yes, Councillor Davis.
Found another one. On 23 or 41, councillor training record. Councillors were offered training opportunities to help them perform their roles. Can we take out better? It's a bit value laden. Because it hangs well without better. It helps them perform their roles. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Helen.
Final point for me, and I forgot to mention it. Sorry, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I agree with Councillor Helen Davis about the fact that I think that what Jan chooses to do with the mayor's allowance is her own personal business and not necessarily the business of the council. I disagree with Councillor Frost in that regard, because just because somebody says something in the council chamber doesn't make it the council's business. I could announce in the chamber right now that I'm going to spend a chunk of money from my Broxdale allowance, which is, I'd love to say substantial, more than most because of being a portfolio holder, and I could make a statement to that effect, but the fact is it's already in my bank account. It's already mixed up with my own money, and therefore it's my own business. It wouldn't be appropriate for anybody to claim that in a council document.
Chair, just to clarify on that point, in Simon's year, we actually kept the allowances in the accounts, so that money was paid from the council's accounts. It wasn't paid by Councillor Gould separately from her own bank account. So it was done, I did it that way because if somebody was looking at our accounts, they would say, oh, actually, they got £300. Why does it only say 250 in here? So I'm sort of a damned if I do, a damned if I don't at this point as to what to do. But I'll take council's decision on what they would prefer me to do.
Councillor Helen Davis. Your hand went up.
No, it's gone out of my head, sorry.
That seems to be one thing that people didn't just nod and say, yeah, that seems fine with the corrections.
Does it say in the bank records donation?
Yeah.
But not everything that the council spent is on there. And we think we've got lots of other things that aren't on there. So I think, as somebody who has this allowance, I would not want it. I'd be happy for it not to be. I think my preference, I wouldn't have it there. Or if the council makes it there, if you go there. Yeah.
Not got preference either way. Okay, a suggestion then, how about it says £300 to the firefighters charity, and it doesn't say where the extra 50 quid comes from, because then it balances the books.
Fine.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do we need to propose this, or is it just?
Yes, so if you propose it, it's published with those amendments,
Yes.
then
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to list all of the amendments, please.
Really? I thought you wanted us to carry on, Councillor. I have made a note of them as we've gone. Yes, Councillor
I was
McCray.
going to say I'm happy to propose that with the amendments, so you don't need to read them out to me again. I did listen.
Is there anyone like to second that without them being read out?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. All those in favour?
thank you.
I think that's unanimous again. Item 11, the external audit. First of all, the conclusion of the audit, the conclusion of the audit, which was previously circulated. I looked it up, it was an email that came out on the 13th of September, and we looked at 4 in the afternoon. Which basically said we had clean bill of health, there was nothing else we needed to do. Which is brilliant, seeing where we were a few years ago. Thank you very much. We need to
Just to note.
note that, brilliant. The second one is, Maureen. I'll try to the wrong page here. Excuse me. Yeah, we get a B, the option to opt out, which is page 43.
That's page 1 then.
Page 1 of many page ones. Page 043. Which is to consider whether to opt out of the SAAA External Auditor Appointment Scheme. We have to consider this every 5 years. Reading through it, it seems a very strange idea for council to decide to opt out of it when there's so many other things that the council staff time have to go towards when this scheme does it perfectly well. Does anyone want to say anything about it?
Yeah.
Councillor Grindell.
That's a definite minute. Yeah, actually, thought long and hard about this, and I'm sure many people have around this table. In fact, it is not actually urgent, is it? And if that is so, as we've only got 6 months of this administration, why can't we leave it to the next administration to decide?
Yeah, no, we have to have made this decision by November because we have to have appointed our external auditors to make us ready for next year. And it's really complicated. I would not recommend it. It's something that we have to look at, but no council opts out of this ever. So I would recommend very strongly that we do not opt out of the appointment scheme that's done nationally.
Councillor Allen.
Seems like a bit of a no-brainer. May I propose that the recommendation that we do not opt out? May I propose that recommendation?
Councillor Hawkins seconds that. All those in favour? Again, unanimous. Thank you. Item 12, the clerk's report, the verbal update on projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is just a quick overview of some of the stuff that we've been working on. The first thing is the broadband that was approved to be upgraded. That has now happened. We have Virgin Media in, so we are now live to the nation actually on the camera, and hopefully that is going out as a good signal. My husband is apparently checking in to make sure. We'll be moving over to voice over IP telephony imminently, and that's being handled by Cloudy IT, which is our new IT provider, support provider, and they'll be sorting that out for us shortly. I just need to fill in the form. The post office, from last time we wanted to organise a meeting with post office representatives. We haven't been able to do that, but we have been told on the grapevine that something is happening and some local business is potentially interested in taking it on. So I think it's just a case of just keep a watching brief and see what happens. And if there is something that we can do as an organisation, then we go forward and try and help. The mayoral portraits, this is something that I've been asked about a couple of times, and actually we had a former past mayor drop in with his grandchildren to have a look at his picture. We haven't put them back up as yet because we were still waiting on whether or not we could do some more refurbishment works. And actually, other things have happened that have just pushed this down. But it was suggested to me by a councillor that we only have the last 10 years worth, because if we just keep putting them up, we're going to run out of wall space eventually, if we just keep adding pictures. Which I thought was a sensible suggestion, but also what somebody has said is that because they're so high up, particularly when we added that new row, they went really high up so you couldn't actually see them. It's not actually DDA compliant to have them that high up, and when nobody can see them, there's not really much point. So what I've asked one of my assistants to do is have a look at some different frames where we could look at popping just sort of 10 in, because we've got to have it secure. We can't just have them loose like they were high up because people could fall off or whatever. So we need to look at something that's easy to update but remains secure and at a lower level. Or we've thought about the possibility of having a screen on there, so because people ask us what's going on in the meeting rooms and things, and so we could have a scroll slideshow of all of the mayoral portraits then, so we're not just hiding the rest of them out and only have the last 10 years. So it's something that is in progress. It's not high priority on the list of things that we've got to deal with at the moment, but I just wanted to make sure that council were aware. I've not forgotten. We're not just sticking them in the cupboard and never bringing them out again. It is something that we are working on, looking at the best way to put them back up on the wall. The annex project, this is it's ongoing. It's taken a long time to get us to a point where it's actually looking really good in there. I'd like to thank Tim Helen for fitting our kitchen for us. It's not fully finished yet, but it's looking great in there. We've had the painter in. We're just looking at the second fix for the plumber and the electrics, and then we'll be hopefully be able to finish it off. We'll then do a carpet clean. We decided not to try and replace the flooring. I think if we can try and clean it and see if that brings it up, it reduces our costs. We are still under budget. He gave me £5,000 to play with. We are under budget at the moment. We've also done a health and safety review, and this will be coming to council at some point in the future. However, there were some things that we ought to have dealt with quickly, so I've done those under my delegated power. So that was to purchase a microwave to go in the kitchen, because we had a member of staff that needed to have special meals and things, but also we're supposed to provide cooking facilities for staff as part of the law. But also the office space has been confirmed as only safe for having 2 people working in there at any one time. So what I have said is that we shall only have 2 people, members of staff, on a shift at one time, which means that we've got to sort of jiggle what we do and how we work. It does present a problem because actually there are times when we all need to be together and working together as a team, and unfortunately that room does not allow us to do that. So that is something that we do need to consider going forward for the staff and the actual facilities that the council provides for them to perform their duties. We have registered for the local council awards scheme. I think if you remember last time we agreed to do this, and I have started completing the application form. Again, it's not been a high priority with everything that we've been doing, and I'm not certain this is going to get finished before I leave now, so it's possible that will need to wait until such time as the council has a qualified clerk in post again. I've had a brief update on the by-elections position. It's been uncontested in both wards. I'll receive official confirmation of the persons elected on Monday, so I will share that with you then. The building revaluation has been completed. If you remember, this was part of our insurance provision. It was something that was dealt with at the Finance and General Purposes Committee. We are currently underinsured on the price of rebuild for the Carnegie, should anything befall it. So that, I've had a quote from our current insurer to top up, and that would cost us £325.18 to increase to cover us. It is over the budget that has been set for that area, but as RFO I need to ensure that we're properly insured, so I will be paying that next week under delegated powers unless anybody's got any strong objections to me doing that this evening. The library have been in touch. Obviously we're aware under the town deal funding they're going to get their new facade and do some works to create a learning space upstairs. And so they are looking to temporarily move into the Carnegie again, so we can house them for a short period at some point I'm not sure how long, but sort of in the next 12 months. We're not clear on when this is going to happen, because obviously it depends on what's happening with the project. So they've sent me their opening hours, and they want us to figure out how much that's going to cost for them to come and use our space. One of the things I'm obviously concerned about is we do have groups in on several of the days that we're open, and so we'll need to work out how they can fit in with the use of the library. It's something that I'm going to look into in more detail and obviously hand over to whoever takes over. But just so that you're aware, we will be a library again in the year for a short period. The website refresh. Sal and I have been working really hard on developing a new website and covering sort of some extra things that we need to do as part of that under the transparency regulations. So I'm hoping that I can launch this over the weekend. We were getting close to it, and unfortunately the Queen died and we didn't think it was appropriate to try and do it at that point. So we sort of delayed it, and then other things have taken over, and so now we're sort of at the final stages where we hope to be able to release that. So when we do that, there's nothing better than the acid test of the public having a look at things, or even councillors. So I would like to request that everybody have a look at the website when it is launched. I'll send you all an email just to check that we've not missed any links, there's nothing sort of not working and sort of sending you in the wrong direction or nowhere at all. Because with the best will in the world, we make mistakes, we're humans, so if you can help that would be great. And then obviously we've had to deal with the death of the Queen during this sort of last period as well. And we did enact protocols. It was agreed the last time that we looked at it. There was slight variations based on what came out from the palace and the timings and things. But hopefully we did a good job for the most part on what we delivered in a very short space of time for that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Howard.
Only since I've been a bit shirty on social media recently regarding these by-elections, and just because of the potential for a crazy amount of cost, I'm going to turn on that, and by hopefully being the first person then to say congratulations on on the election by default of our 2 new councillors. Look forward to seeing them next time.
Yeah, I was actually going to go back to the library issue. Do you know how many books there
He has been in to measure up. They want to do it in the meeting room space at the back, but what he has, because I asked if they could be on casters so we could actually move them out of the way for evening sessions, because we do book that space now. So they have said that, and they're going to come back to me with some further details as to how much they're going to do, but it'll only be enough to fill that space. They're not coming in here as well.
Yeah, the rest of the library obviously will be stacked somewhere else. But last time it was used, went all right. So as long as they don't overstock the place, then there's not enough room for it.
Yes.
One last point. last meeting. I just wanted to say thank you so much for everything that you have done. You've done incredibly well, especially over the last few weeks, because you know, with the Queen's Eye, you did actually pull in an all weekender, which it was a phenomenal thing. I know it ruined your plans for that weekend, but yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you. It's very much appreciated.
And I think that the council is in a lot better situation than it was when you came here. You've put a lot of things into place that have helped us in our job. Thank you very much. Item 13, exclusion of press and public bodies admission to meetings Act 1960. Under the Public Bodies Admissions to Meeting Act 1960, the public is represented to the press and broadcast media. This is the proposal that under the Public Bodies Admissions to Meeting Act 1960, the public is represented to the press and broadcast media be excluded from the meeting during the consideration of item 14, as publicity would be prejudicial to public interest because of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted.
I will propose that, or do you propose that?
I'll propose that one.
Somebody propose it, please.
I'll second it then.
Thank you. All those in favour? Against? One against. Abstentions? One abstention. Thank you very much.
To give the public the opportunity to leave and to give me the opportunity to go to the toilet, do you mind if I have a 5-minute recess, please?
That seems a good idea. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for coming along.
Yes, sorry, I can't let you do that. The wine is.
I had a bad time in there.